Most well known as a sensei to the Cobra Kai Dojo in the 1980s and present day, Vietnam veteran and Army Captain John Kreese is most notable and notorious for his extreme teachings and sadistic manners. Before creating generations of bullies, losing his dojo and everything in his name, and returning to the valley 3 decades later to instill his philosophy of no mercy, what is the story and life history of Captain John Kreese? In today's video, we'll cover just that. We will be going over the history of John Kreese from the first events we know of to his most recent appearance in Cobra Kai Season 3. Early life. Born in 1946, John Kreese grew up in the San Fernando Valley. However, he had a very rough home life. Kreese's mother was mentally ill, and her declining mental health led to her committing suicide in 1965. In light of his mother's passing, Kreese became an outcast, often being the target of bullying because of the stigma surrounding mental health issues, and John was most commonly labeled a freak by his peers. Sometime after these events, Kreese picked up a job at a local diner. On a busy workday for Kreese at the diner, a jock named David and one of his friends entered the establishment. Also accompanying David was a very pretty young lady named Betsy. Betsy quickly caught the eye of Kreese, much to the chagrin of David, as there was already tension between him and Kreese brewing the moment he entered the diner. Shortly after, a uniformed military officer went around the building, handing out flyers in hopes to recruit young men to join the US Army. He offered the flyer to David, who said he and his friend would consider it, but David ultimately crumpled up the paper and threw it on the floor of the diner once the officer walked away. Kreese picked up the pamphlet and unfolded it. Clearly intrigued by the idea of the military, Kreese stuffed the paper in his back pocket and went back to work. While carrying a tray full of dirty silverware and other items, David trips Kreese, sending him straight to the floor with the tray. Kreese was left feeling humiliated, while everyone laughed at his expense, with the exception of Betsy, who was the only one who showed him some pity. Still on his work shift, Kreese was taking out the trash behind the diner where he came across David and Betsy arguing nearby. David was rather upset over Betsy making eye contact with Kreese, so he firmly grabbed her and informed her she was to never do it again. Betsy didn't like being held by David like that, so she broke free of his grasp, prompting the jock to slap her across the face. Kreese quickly and heroically came to the aid of the young woman, standing up for her even though the odds were 2 against 1. The 3 men got into a heated fight, but Kreese soon gained the upper hand on the 2 friends, leaving them incapacitated. He told Betsy he'd been fighting bullies his whole life, then he offered to give the attractive girl a ride home, and she accepted. Military career. In the time since, Kreese and Betsy committed to a relationship with one another, a quite happy one seemingly. Kreese soon then enlisted into the military. By the time 1968 rolled around, he had already completed basic training and was deployed overseas to serve in the Vietnam War. Kreese was highly spoken of for his actions and willingness to take risks, often catching the attention of his superiors. During this time, he befriended a man named Terry Silver, most commonly referred to as Twig during the war. He and Silver would remain friends for years to come. One day, the captain of Kreese, Captain Turner, approached him about a special task force he was forming. This special task force would go on direct missions which would be containing action up in the north of the country. Captain Turner warned Kreese that they'd be going sterile into triple canopy jungles. No insignias, no ID. Captain Turner would lead the team of specialists who Kreese had a hand in picking. Immediately, his first 2 picks are his close friends, Terry Silver and a man nicknamed Ponytail. The men were extensively trained in guerrilla tactics, demolition, and hand-to-hand combat by Captain Turner. Turner served his time in the Korean War, and it was there where he trained in the art of Tang Soo Do under Master Kim Sung-yun. Everything taught to Turner was passed down to Kreese and the other men in the task force. The men needed to know this art for the possibility of close-quarter combat. During the time of their training under Captain Turner, the captain would usually call out upon Kreese for his inability to shed his humanity during combat training and physical confrontations. Turner reprimanded Kreese for his ways, and taught him to never lose concentration in a fight and to show no mercy. Presumably the next day, the task force embarked on the reconnaissance mission which they trained ever so much for. The team surveyed a compound belonging to the People's Army of Vietnam. Kreese was monitoring the campsite for the Vietnamese officers' activities, while Silver attempted to call in for air support. Ponytail traversed the edge of the compound, planning and arming explosives. During the adrenaline-pumping moment, Silver's radio malfunctions, erupting a loud sound and giving away the position of the men. The captain orders Kreese to detonate the explosives, but Kreese refuses as it will kill Ponytail. All the men end up being captured by the Vietnamese, including Captain Turner. Each of the specialists were held at gunpoint as Turner berated Kreese over his actions, failing the mission and leading them to be captured by enemy hands. Ponytail is then executed by one of their North Vietnamese captors, and the blame is all put on Kreese, forever scarring him. The remaining American soldiers were then held captive until 1969. While being held captive, the unit was subjected to endless torture and punishment at the hands of the Vietnamese. The task force was held in a bamboo cage to live out their days. At random, the soldiers would force the Americans to fight to the death on a small platform suspended high above a pit of venomous snakes. This gets a rise of the North Vietnamese soldiers. At one point, Kreese looks to his captain for leadership, but Turner says their survival is unlikely. He tells Kreese that there are no longer any ranks, no captains, no commanders. It's only every man for himself. Soon after, Silver is picked to fight Turner, one-on-one to the death. Silver begins to panic and is extremely reluctant to fight. Fortunately for him, Kreese volunteers to take Silver's place and fight the captain. While walking up to the platform, Turner tries to weaken Kreese with his words, stating that he still has something to live for, unlike Kreese. This confuses Kreese as he thinks of Betsy back home, but then Turner reveals that she died in a car accident and didn't want to let Kreese know because Turner needed him at his best for the missions they were about to go on. Instead of weakening him, it gave Kreese the motivation he needed to beat down his captain. An intense battle ensued, but Kreese had Turner beat, hanging over the side of the small bridge, just dangling above his doom. Suddenly, an airstrike from the United States military rained down on the camp, killing and scaring off most of the Vietnamese. Turner sought this opportunity to get Kreese to help him up as there was no sense in fighting each other anymore, but Kreese declined the offer, finally adopting the no mercy philosophy and sending his former captain to his death in a pit of snakes. Kreese then ran back to the cell of cheering men, freeing them all. The last man out to thank him was Terry Silver. Silver told Kreese he would always be there for him, his whole life, and help him with whatever he needs. Over the following years, Kreese held the title of Army Karate Champion from 1970 to 1972. He went on to join the Green Berets of the Army Special Forces. Kreese was later discharged from the military as the rank of captain. Post-military career. Prior to 1979, after his days in the United States military had ended, Kreese co-founded the Cobra Kai Dojo in the Valley with Terry Silver and his financial backing. This is where he taught his methods of karate that were taught to him, now passed down to younger students. The students were trained in Tang Soo Do under extreme measures. Pre-Karate Kid. By 1979, Cobra Kai was well established. It had many students training under Kreese, including a 12-year-old Johnny Lawrence. The Cobra Kai Dojo went on to compete in the 1981 All-Valley Under-18 Karate Championships tournament. Although the dojo didn't win that year, Johnny Lawrence won the 1982 and 1983 tournament, much to the pleasure of Sensei Kreese. The Karate Kid. In 1984, while training his students, Kreese met a young man named Daniel LaRusso and his mentor, Mr. Miyagi, inside the Cobra Kai dojo. The two of them went to confront Kreese about the fact Daniel was jumped the prior night by Kreese's students, including the two-time champion, Johnny Lawrence. Miyagi wants the Cobra Kai students to leave Daniel alone, but Kreese wants to settle it in the sudden moment. Declining, Mr. Miyagi proposes having Daniel compete against the gang of bullies at the All-Valley Karate Tournament. Kreese accepts this proposal and the two sides begin their rigorous training. During the tournament in the semifinals, Cobra Kai student Bobby Brown faces off against Daniel LaRusso. Kreese instructs Bobby to put Daniel out of commission by an illegal kick to the knee, showing how unethical and sadistic Kreese really is. Reluctantly, Bobby abides, resulting in him being disqualified. Moving into the finals, Daniel faces off against the current champion, Johnny Lawrence. Down by 2 points, Kreese demands of Johnny to sweep LaRusso's leg, once again showing how unethical and hyper-fixated on winning he is. He tells Johnny to show no mercy and sends him back onto the mat, ultimately being defeated by Daniel using the crane kick. The Karate Kid Part 2. Shortly after Daniel's victory, Kreese confronts Johnny in the parking lot, berating him for not defeating LaRusso. Johnny tells Kreese that he did his best, but Kreese continues calling him a loser and saying that Johnny is off the team. When Johnny insults Kreese in return, Kreese breaks his second place trophy, throwing it away. He then puts Johnny in a chokehold, almost killing the second place winner. Other members of Cobra Kai attempt to stop Kreese, but Kreese knocks them to the ground and continues choking Johnny, telling them not to intervene. Fortunately, Mr. Miyagi steps in and pulls Kreese off of Johnny. Kreese gets ready in a fighting stance and attempts a punch directed towards Mr. Miyagi. Miyagi moves out of the way of the punch, resulting in Kreese breaking a car window and bloodying his knuckles. Enraged, Kreese attempts the same attack with his opposite hand, but Mr. Miyagi yet again dodges the strike, and Kreese breaks another window. With both hands rendered useless, Miyagi takes Kreese to his knees, and fakes a final blow to Kreese, sparing his life. The Cobra Kai students, now seeing Kreese's true colors, abandon him in Cobra Kai for good. The Karate Kid Part 3. After being abandoned by his students, Kreese has no choice but to close the Cobra Kai dojo. He has gone broke and has almost nothing left in his name. He's been living a sad life since the tournament 6 months prior. Kreese decides to pay his old war buddy, Terry Silver, a visit and hand over the keys to the dojo since he can no longer keep it open and since Silver funded it. Kreese explains to Silver how he got to this point, and Terry comes up with a plan. Silver would go on to hire Mike Barnes, deemed karate's bad boy, to beat Daniel LaRusso at the next All-Valley tournament and to open multiple Cobra Kai dojos across the valley. Terry then sends Kreese to Tahiti for a little vacation while he takes care of things back home. While Kreese would be soaking in the sun and getting massages on the beach, Silver told Mr. Miyagi and Daniel that John Kreese had died. This would play into Silver's plot to train Daniel at the original Cobra Kai dojo. One night, after multiple days of training with Silver, Daniel enters the dojo to call it all off. He decides he no longer wants to compete in the tournament or continue his training under Cobra Kai with Terry Silver. Surprised, Silver brings out Mike Barnes to intimidate Daniel, causing him to attempt to flee the dojo. John Kreese then jumps out from behind a cardboard cutout of himself, revealing he's still alive and startling Daniel. Daniel leaves, but Silver orders Mike to bring him back inside so they can torment him more. Suddenly, Mr. Miyagi throws Mike through the dojo's front doors. Miyagi then faces off against Kreese and Silver, beating the two of them. Terry's final threat to them is to make John Kreese and Cobra Kai the face of karate in the valley. At Daniel's second All-Valley Karate tournament, he beats Mike Barnes in sudden death. This enrages both Kreese and Silver, making them both leave the karate scene for good. Cobra Kai is then closed and permanently banned from competing in any future tournaments for the unsportsmanship conduct of John Kreese, Terry Silver, and Mike Barnes. This would seemingly be the end to Cobra Kai and the story of John Kreese. Cobra Kai Season 1. Over 3 decades since the closure of the Cobra Kai franchise, former champion and antagonist Johnny Lawrence reopens the dojo to young, fresh new faces. Johnny does everything he can to not be like Kreese, and show that it is not the same Cobra Kai from the 80s. He's even able to get the dojo reinstated in the eyes of the karate tournament officials in order to compete again. In the time since Johnny walked away from Cobra Kai, he's been under the impression that John Kreese had died. At the 2018 All-Valley Karate Tournament, the dojo star student Miguel Diaz won the championship. As Johnny visited the dojo in the night, a man entered. He congratulated Johnny for bringing Cobra Kai back and for winning the tournament, something Johnny always wanted. The man emerges from the dark with a cigar in hand, revealing he's John Kreese, alive and ready to be back in the limelight. Cobra Kai Season 2. Moments after re-emerging, Johnny and Kreese ultimately end up getting into a brawl with no victors. The following day, Kreese apologizes for all he can and asks Johnny for a second chance. He tells Johnny that in the time since, he enlisted back into the military for a numerous amount of years and even trained Navy SEALs in Afghanistan. Hoping to win Johnny over, Kreese reveals he even repaired his second place trophy. Johnny is hesitant to let Kreese back into his life in dojo, but decides he does deserve a second chance. Weeks go by of Kreese assisting Johnny in the training of his students, even becoming a sensei once again. Kreese would tell his war stories and experiences to some of the Cobra Kais, often fascinating them. But once Miguel notices some of Kreese's stories have inconsistencies, he confronts this fact to Johnny, who then investigates Kreese a little more. Upon following Kreese across town one day, it's revealed to Johnny that his former sensei is living in a homeless shelter, and has been for over the past 10 years. Kreese comes clean to Johnny, telling him that he worked various jobs and attempted to re-enlist in the army, but was denied, alluding to him potentially having PTSD. A friend of Kreese who fought alongside him in the Vietnam War offered him a job, but the former army captain felt like it was a handout and declined. Showing pity, Johnny puts his trust in Kreese once again. Now a sensei at Johnny's reopened Cobra Kai, Kreese makes every attempt he can at installing his old ways into Johnny's new students. He quickly becomes a negative influence on them, making the kids much more aggressive and merciless. When Johnny takes a day off to spend time with his old high school buddies and former Cobra Kai students, Kreese strikes a deal with the landlord of the mini-mall in secret, once again becoming the true owner of Cobra Kai. Kreese even goes as far as ordering Hawk and some other students to vandalize and trash Daniel LaRusso's karate dojo, Miyagi-Do. This sparks up even more tension between Kreese, Johnny, and Daniel. When Johnny finally learns of what Kreese has been up to, Johnny kicks him out and teaches his students lessons of when they should show mercy. Johnny proceeds to teach his students his own ways, not Kreese's. However, after the school fight that left Miguel paralyzed, once he showed mercy to Johnny's estranged son, Robbie, some of the students leave Johnny and become loyal to Kreese. When Johnny goes to enter the dojo in the night, he notices the door is already open. He can hear the sounds of people training in the back room, so he goes to investigate. There, Kreese reveals his true plan to Johnny since he and many other students believe Johnny failed them. Hawk, Tori, and Mitch stand in defense of Kreese, telling Johnny it's his own fault for teaching Miguel to show mercy, leading to his injury. Realizing his grave mistake in letting Kreese back into his life, Johnny surrenders the dojo out of rage and heartbreak, leaving him just how Kreese once was, abandoned, alone, and depressed. Now as the only sensei, Kreese has plans to make Cobra Kai as ruthless as it once was. Cobra Kai Season 3. Weeks after the school fight and Miguel being paralyzed, Daniel comes face to face with Kreese in the dojo while looking for Johnny, not knowing Johnny had left Cobra Kai some time ago. Kreese berates him for dragging Miyagi's name through the mud and causing this karate war. Kreese finally tells Daniel that they will meet again, and a fight between them will occur. It's only inevitable. The ruthlessness of Kreese reaches new levels in the dojo and among his students. Kreese then expels all who are weak, quote unquote. To show his cruelty and how unethical he still is, Kreese kicks out any students who contest feeding a live mouse to a snake. To make up for the loss of students, Kreese recruits many more, this time people who are peak athletes and seemingly Cobra Kai material in his eyes. All the expelled students join Johnny's new reformed dojo, Eagle Fang Karate. After the realization that Johnny would not be coming back to the dojo, Kreese pays a visit to Robbie Keene, who is in juvie for the school fight. Robbie declines Kreese's offer and advice for another sensei, but ultimately joins Cobra Kai after his release. Kreese also tries to have the cancelled All Valley tournament reinstated so the three dojos can compete against each other, but because of the arguments of Johnny, Daniel, and Kreese prove other reasons to have it remained cancelled, it's saved in the end by Miguel and Daniel's daughter, Samantha LaRusso. This prompts Kreese to train his students even harder under more extreme conditions. Noticing the connection Samantha and Miguel had at the committee meeting, Kreese uses this as an exploit because of Tori's hatred towards Sam. It enrages Tori knowing Samantha is with her ex-boyfriend, that their karate dojos have a truce, and that they're plotting against Cobra Kai. Sometime after, Kreese orders an attack that will involve Hawk, Tori, and some other Cobra Kai students, including Miguel's former bully, Kyler. The attack is launched on the LaRusso household, shortly after Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang Karate make an official truce, while Daniel and Johnny are at a Christmas party. A brawl then ensues at the home once the Cobra Kai students break in. In the end, it comes to Hawk that what he is doing is wrong, Kreese doesn't care about him, and that he's been a bully this whole time. Hawk then turns to Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang, abandoning Cobra Kai. But once Johnny and Daniel get word of what happened, they both want to go confront Kreese. Making it to the dojo first, Johnny bursts in and goes immediately to the back room to find Kreese training his son Robbie. Kreese once again offers Johnny an opportunity to join back and help train his students, but Johnny responds by throwing a series of strikes towards Kreese. A tense fight follows, with Johnny getting the better of Kreese. Robbie soon intervenes in defense of Kreese, attacking his own father. Johnny defends himself appropriately, but accidentally knocks Robbie out. While tending to Robbie, Kreese attacks Johnny with an advantage, along with a weapon, a sai that was on the wall of the dojo. Johnny disarms Kreese, but with the intent to kill, he begins strangling Johnny. Luckily, Daniel arrives at the dojo and stops Kreese. The two rivals face off in a fight Kreese already said was inevitable. Kreese picks up Daniel and throws him through the pane window on the front of the building, staggering them both. Looking to end it, Kreese picks up a shard of glass to use it as a weapon and murder Daniel with it. Remembering new techniques he learned from an old enemy turned friend, chosen Taguchi in Okinawa, Daniel is able to temporarily immobilize Kreese using pressure points and stop his attack. Daniel prepares to deal out the final blow to Kreese with the approval of Johnny, but stops himself once Miguel and Samantha arrive. An injured Robbie awakens and comes to the scene, once again showing his loyalty to Kreese. Kreese then says they should go about things the quote, old-fashioned way, to settle their dispute at the tournament. If he loses, Cobra Kai will go for good, and vice versa for Johnny and Daniel, who then combine their dojos into one. The next morning, Kreese reflects on a promise Terry Silver once made to him, the promise that whatever he needed, Terry would be there for him, his whole life. Remembering this, a beaten-up Kreese picks up the phone and calls the one and only Terry Silver for assistance once again. And that's where the life story of John Kreese concludes. For now. When Season 4 of Cobra Kai premieres on Netflix later this year, you can expect an updated version of this video. If you did happen to enjoy, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more Cobra Kai related content. And make sure you let us know in the comments of what you think of John Kreese up to this point, and who you'd like a video like this one made on next. Thanks everyone for watching, stay safe, and have a great day.